Big enough, I don't even need. Welcome to our meeting tonight for Canyon Regional Water Authority on December 11th, 2020. And I'm going to poll. Ted Gibbs. Here. Martin Ford. Here. Gary Gilbert. Abigail Mabry. Here. Ramos. Here. Teresa Shield.
Here.
Donald Bosworth. Frankie.
Here.
Randy Schwinn.
Here.
Brandon Rohan.
Here.
Mark Gilbert.
Here.
Mayor Al Suarez. Cooper.
Present.
New board member tonight was just sworn in, Mr. Nicholas Sherman representing GBSUD. Nick, welcome. Dick Sherman.
Present.
Steve Fonville. Here. James Forstill. Here. Chris Stubing.
Here.
On. Out of bow your head for an invocation. Heavenly Father, we come to you again to give thanks for many blessings we each enjoy during this Christmas season. Continue to pray for peace. We ask that you continue to bless us with good health, greater levels of wisdom and knowledge, and exercise our ability to passion to our team, interact with in our very best days. Pray for these intentions to say our pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Flag. United States. Republic for stands. Standing. We're taking care of item number taking care of item number 5. Number 4. Acceptance of resignation of a trustee. Okay, we've accepted the resignation of things that, in fact, they were no longer residency. Like, no, and it was Springfield. Yeah. Not an action item, it's just more of an announcement. But she did send in a letter on indicating no longer eligible due to a change in the boundaries. Thank you. Item 5, oath of office. I've already given the oath of office to Mr. And so we've handled that one. Public comments. A, comments of non-agenda items, no discussion from the minute time limit. Item B, comments on specific items on this agenda, discussion from and with the may be allowed. 3-minute time limit per citizen. Time may not be shared or ceded to another resident. Members of the public wishing to make public comments during the meeting must register by emailing hdiaz@crwa.com prior to the meeting. Written comments may also be submitted. State your name. Hear from the public wishing to the podium. None, we'll move on to item 7, consent agenda items. Items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the board, be considered by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these requests, in which case the item will be considered as part of the order. A, CRWA 23-12-08 resolution, the approval of the minutes from the 20th board of meeting. And B, CRWA 23-12-081 resolution for the approval of the October 20 financial report and check register audited. Accept the motion or comment.
I want to table the minute. I want to pull for.
I have a second to table
I'll
the
second that.
consent agenda.
Table the consent, just we're pulling
Just
the meeting,
tabling-
pulling the minutes.
Just, so if you could make that motion to state which of those, the resolution?
We can just. I want to move to put.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Seeing none, they have been tabled. Discussion.
I move item 7B.
Motion is second to approve CRWA 2312-081. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
I'll abstain. I haven't had it.
Sir. Nays, one abstention. Trey, we would move into discussion on that item at this point, correct? I agree. Ma'am. Have the floor, ma'am.
I don't know the purpose of data sheet. I understand that reading this, lot that was not discussed in the.
Okay.
I don't know where.
Came from your general manager, and he wanted to make sure that he was able to share and make corrections to statements that was made there. It's just data sheet, so he's adding it to the minutes, not revising the minutes.
Why didn't he add this why didn't he discuss this at the meeting?
I can't answer
There
that
was no
question.
discussion on it. So how can I include it in the minutes if there was no discussion?
It's added as an errata sheet. It doesn't fall in minutes as written. Additional information being available to the.
I want to put.
So I have a question. You stated it's an errata sheet, so it's my understanding, Trey, we operate under Robert's Rules of Order, correct? Okay, and with regards to an errata sheet, my understanding of an errata sheet, it's for deposition, it's for litigation, it's an attorney jargon. It's not for the minutes. And I agree with what Doris stated. I mean, clearly we had a general manager who could clearly state what happened, but all of a sudden, after the fact, goes ahead and generates this errata sheet basically based on someone's advice, but more importantly, left out stuff in the minutes that are pertinent with regards to what was said and what was stated in the minutes. So to me, that's confusing. It's also my understanding the minutes are a legal binding document. So if we change them, what does that do to us as a board?
So in multiple regards, the errata sheet, as I understand it, is not a supplement to the minutes. It's not part of the minutes. It's an effort by the general manager to correct items that were left out of the record during the meeting. So it would not be part of the official record. It would not be part of the binding document that the minutes are meant to be. It's his effort to put into the record responses that weren't made during the meeting.
I don't understand that. This is the first time Canyon Regional has done an errata sheet. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
They're not part of the minutes.
They're not part of the minutes.
It's a separate communication. It's not part of the minutes.
It's really a report, or it's a document without a home. It's not part of the minutes. And it's a procedural irregularity. I think that there was some concern that was expressed after the meeting that there were responses that were incomplete. General manager was searching for a way to get those into the record, or to bring the additional attention to the additional information to the board's attention, and this was his effort.
So should this be read out tonight? So now it is a part of the record, not just a part of our packet?
I didn't create the errata sheet. I mean, it's really a matter of preference for John, but I think it's important to understand the minutes are the minutes, and the errata sheet is not part of the minutes. For lack of a better word, it's a report.
So that's why I'm saying, should we have somebody read this or enter this into the record for tonight? Because then it's just a sheet sitting in our packet.
Well, it's just a clarification, I think, from the, from the general manager on an answer he had that obviously wasn't a full answer at the board meeting. It's not part of our minutes. It doesn't need to be part of our minutes, so I wouldn't add it to any minutes.
No, it's not part of the official, it didn't happen at the meeting. I mean, nobody's going to dispute that that conversation that's reflected in the errata sheet did not occur at the meeting. I want to correct the record. That's what this document is an effort to do, but it shouldn't be read. It wasn't part of the business of the board at the last meeting. In fact, it's really the opposite of that. It's things that weren't.
Right. I understand that. That's why I'm asking.
Arto, you said something like,
Become a part of the meeting for tonight, that's all.
Yeah, I'm just, if I may, Brandon, just,
No,
so
no
again, regarding Robert's Rules of Order, which we operate under, does it allow, I guess, errata sheets? Does it allow stuff like that to be placed in documents before the board when we're discussing stuff? After the fact?
Honestly, it doesn't answer that question one way or the other. The errata sheet, as you indicated, is a bit of a procedural irregularity, but it's not part of the business of the board, and it's certainly not part of the minutes or the record of what transpired at the last Board of Trustees meeting.
And asked that it be removed from this document. And it serves no purpose. In my eyes, it serves no purpose.
Okay, we're off topic. Topic is the minutes. The errata sheet has been established. It's not part of the minutes. Anybody have issues with the actual?
well, that's what I was gonna
We
ask.
do-
I thought
we
he
do.
said that you had said that there was an issue in them.
There's issues with regards to the report on Region L. I'm sorry, not Region L. There's actually comments on Region L. With regards to the RFQ for general counsel, I stated, why is it taking Mr. Kaufman 6 months to generate an RFQ for counsel? And his response was he was too busy. I'd like the minutes to reflect that.
I think the minutes do reflect that, don't they?
No, they do not. He stated twice he was too busy. Minutes do not reflect that.
What item is that?
It's with regards to the report on the RFQs. There's general counsel, there's
I see it. It's on page 4.
request for qualifications. RFQ for general counsel was completed, reviewed by Tim. I questioned, why is it taking 4 months? I'm sorry, 6 months to do an RFQ? His response was he was too busy. I asked again, he said he was too busy. I'd like the minutes to reflect that, since this is a legal binding document.
Again, point of order. Discussing the minutes right now. Can beat the errata sheet to death, but not right now.
So Mr. Ramos has one proposed correction to the minutes themselves. Does anybody else have any proposed corrections, revisions?
I move that we accept the minutes as a.
Second. I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
I'll abstain. I was not at the meeting.
Understood. Minutes are approved 17-0 to 1. Going on to item 8, presentation discussions. Believe none are listed. CRWA staff reports, none are listed. CRWA committee and board of managers reports, budget committee, any report?
No, sir.
No report from budget committee. Policy and legislative committee, Mr. Gibbs.
No report.
No report. Construction committee.
We did not meet, so I have no report.
Reports on matters related to CRWA construction infrastructure projects, staff consultants or appropriate committee chairpersons. Thing? I don't believe we had any reports on that either. Board of Managers,
But related to CRWA construction infrastructure projects. So I guess, can we get an update on Garver? Is that acceptable in this topic here? Item 10D.
We can, I'd actually would like to,
Okay, that's fine.
happy to give you a report. So Garver Engineering was one of the successful bidders in a previously issued RFQ. We have tendered to Garver Engineering the proposed Canyon Regional Master Engineering Services Agreement. Garver has requested a series of proposed revisions to the agreement. All of the requested revisions, with the exception of one, have been negotiated and are agreeable. There is a specific request that I had felt uncomfortable making a recommendation without getting some feedback from the board, or at least the executive committee of the board. Waiting an answer on that, and it relates to limitation of liability being built into the contract. So the request is one that's a fairly common one. It's not patently unreasonable, but it's one that, given the recent experiences of CRWA, I'd like the board to weigh in before we go approving revisions to our standardized documents. And so I wait the executive committee to get back with Garver on that. And once we cross that final bridge, we'll have a contract for you with Garver.
Thank you.
Board of Managers, any report from Chairperson? 4-minute report. Go.
I need to get a mic to.
Yes, sir. Please.
Excuse me.
So it's basically, we met last Wednesday. Staff did their usual reports, and they go like this. The statement of qualifications for electrical engineer and construction management are due back today. David McMullen reported that a generator here at Dunlap for the high service pumps had a control board go down, and at that time wasn't aware of when a fix was possible. He stated that if they lost electrical power here at this facility, they would have to haul in a generator from another facility to get some limited pumping done here. But they were looking at options at that time. They reported all Dunlap water rights would be used this year, with plenty of left over at Wells Ranch to cover the contracts. Raw water usage at the Hayes Caldwell plant as of December 1st was 92%. Raw water usage was used throughout the year, with leaving 8% remaining for the month of December. Adam did some trending and projects that there'll be 1% of the raw water available at the Hayes Caldwell plant, with roughly 17% of the contracts remaining. There was a site visit for phase one of the project, phase one, I'm sorry, for the Clearwell on that same day, 12/6, and the bid opening for that project is 12/22. That's all I got.
Can I ask for you to clarify? You said 17% remaining. Is that projected remaining at the end of the year, or was it 17% December 1st?
First.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be some number less, but not significantly less.
Right.
So we have a discrepancy there, 1% raw water left and some number,
Yeah, so there's
7, 8, 9,
8%
10.
December 1, with roughly 18% of the contracts
Okay,
available.
thank you.
Any questions for Justin and the Board of Managers? Justin, thank you. And that was significantly less than 4 minutes. Gonna be here in a December timeline. We're gonna keep it moving if we can. I appreciate that. Hearing no questions, we're gonna move on to item 11, general business. First one, CRWA 23-12-082, concerning approval of a second amendment to the ARWA Regional Water Supply Contract, Graham Moore of ARWA.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be with you again. As I'm sure you recall, last month I was here and gave you an update on the construction of our overall Phase 1B program and explained the need for us to issue an additional $46 million in debt in order to overcome some shortfalls we have in our overall expenditures. So before you tonight, I've got the next 3 agenda items, and so I'm just going to hit them all in this one presentation. I think it's relatively straightforward. The first of which will be an amendment to the contract between Alliance and CRWA to allow for a bond anticipation note. So that's amendment number 2 to the regional water supply contract. And then in turn, Canyon Regional Water Authority has a contract with 3 special utility districts, Green Valley, Crystal Clear, and County Line for the water. And so we need to amend that agreement as well. And so that's amendment number 1 to the agreement. And then finally, we're seeking your approval of a resolution by the Alliance Water Board to approve of bond anticipation notes. So if we can go through quickly the next couple of slides, simply wanted to state what's in the water supply contract amendments. And so as noted, this is amendment number 2 to the agreement. The original contract was entered into in January of 2008. We've had 1 amendment, which occurred in October 2009. And the proposed amendment tonight is narrow. It simply adds section 3.15 to the contract that specifically allows ARWA to issue bond anticipation notes as a way to gain financing. This was not previously addressed in the prior contract. We feel like this is necessary in order for us to qualify for to use this in our switch funding application and get it refinanced. It maintains, importantly, the requirement for approval from all sponsor councils and boards, just like we've done with our revenue bonds. And that's partly why we're here before you tonight. Moving on to the next item then will be, scroll down there, we go, to the SUDS take or pay contract amendment. That would be amendment number 1 to that agreement. That original contract was entered into in October 2015. Similar to what I just described on the previous agreement, this adds what's a section 3.08 to this contract that again specifically allows the issuance of bond anticipation notes. And again, it still maintains the requirement from approval from all sponsor boards, just like we've done like the revenue bonds in the past. And then so moving on down, then the third action we'll be asking for tonight is the actual approval effectively of the bond anticipation note details. We have continued to work with Wells Fargo Bank to secure the bond anticipation notes. Again, this is basically a 1-year financing tool that we will then use the SWIFT financing in 2024 to refinance this over what's anticipated to be a 30-year period. The total principal amount sought is $46 million. CRWA share, which is set by the contract at 30.89%, is 14.2 million roughly. The interest rate that has been secured for this band is a 4.72% simple interest. And so the interest over the basically 1-year period is slightly under 2 million, and CRWA's share of that is $617,000. The interest payment would be due at the time of SWIFT closing, although we are trying to work with the Water Development Board to include the interest payment in the SWIFT application. So we actually would not have a payment due next November. We don't have that locked in for sure. We'll work through that with the Water Development Board as we continue through the process. So these are the 3 action items we're asking for your approval tonight. Since the last time I was before this board, I have attended the 3 different SUD board meetings. So again, that are affected by this. That's Crystal Clear, Green Valley, and County Line. Made a similar presentation to what I made last time, explaining where we're at in the project and the need for the funding and what our next steps forward were. We are now scheduled to come back to those boards here over the next week. I believe Crystal Clear and Green Valley are both scheduled for Thursday. They have it on their agendas, and County Line will be next Monday night to seek those approvals. We're also going around to our other sponsors. The City of Buda passed the contract amendment and the ban last week. Our board of directors passed the contract amendment 2 weeks ago, and we'll take up the ban later this week. And then Kyle and San Marcos will take up both items at their council meeting next Tuesday night. So we're trying to get around to everybody to get this all wrapped up with the intent of closing on the funding by December 21st of this year so that we can continue forward with the projects, excuse me. There's multiple projects funded by this. So with that, I'd be
I got
happy
a
to take
question.
any questions.
I got a question. This is a one-year financing process, so essentially at the end of the term, which I'm understanding to be somewhere around the middle of December,
That's correct.
at the end of that term, you have an interest payment and you have a total payment for all of the principal.
That's correct.
So it's just in the event, what happens in the event that you can't secure the closing on the SWIFT funding in time, that this doesn't become a challenge, because then you will be looking at a sizable payment, do all at once.
Right.
What's the contingency for that? Because you know how, I mean, we've all kind of watched Texas Water Development Board either upfront or peripherally. And you know how that can basically may not work in the time frame you thought.
Well, I do. So I'll address your question in two different ways. One, with the Water Development Board, they have a requirement that those funds for the SWIFT be closed on by the end of the year that those are taken in every year. And we've done this 4 previous years. We've taken out SWIFT loans. We've closed before Thanksgiving on those. So we feel very confident that we've got plenty of time to close on that prior to the maturity date of the ban, which would be mid-December. If we do have a fallback though, if by chance, which I don't think is likely, that the SWIFT program were to not be available to us for some reason, then we would go out on the open market and seek financing to extend it out over a 20 or 30-year period. And so we start that process in the late summer timeframe, and we'd have plenty of time to secure that financing so that we wouldn't have the balloon payment due in. Again, I don't think that's a likely scenario. We have worked closely with the Water Development Board. They know our application's coming, but we have a backup plan just in case that that does become necessary.
Because essentially loan goes to us and then we sublet the loan to the 3 entities that are part of CRWA. That's why I'm asking the question. 'Cause
That's
there-
correct.
There's always that 5% chance, 1% chance, whatever you want to call it out there, that for some reason this doesn't fall in the timeline approved. And I wanted to make sure I understood what that mechanism was.
And I wouldn't put a specific percentage chance on that, but I'd put it much less than 1%, given our history with the SWIFT loans
I'm
and
writing
the
that down.
process with that.
Graham marks it
I'm
less
I'm
than
marking it right
1%.
down there. Less than 1%.
Absolutely.
My question's for CRWA staff. Are they going to propose a budget amendment in January? Are we going to start collecting this? I know that Graham says the hope is to roll into the loan, but what if we can't roll into the loan? Or are we going to expect the member entities to just write a big check in November to us, or what's the thought process there?
Member entities, how would you say?
Yeah, well, I'll say that first of all, we would need to amend our budget in order to have that flow to King Regional. We currently have a fair amount in reserves and debt reserve funds that we could utilize to cover, if not all of it, I think most of it, so that it would be a minor increase when the time comes. Our intent has been to factor this into our budgeting as part of the next fiscal year when that comes around, and hope again to be able to refinance it as part of the SWIFT program, including the interest. So it's not.
Which is what we've done in the past. I mean,
Okay.
there's consideration.
Works for me. I just wanted to ask the question.
Brandon, to answer your question, this was not contemplated when we put together the 24 fiscal year budget. And I would anticipate that we would be coming to the board for approval of a budget amendment to cover the expenses for this that would be paid for by the participating entities.
If Graham amends his budget and asks us to do so. And thank you
Yes.
for that, Graham. I had
Yes.
forgotten about that
Yes.
important step in there.
Yes,
I
thank you.
appreciate you tactfully correcting me there. Okay.
It's complicated. I understand. So happy to answer any question.
But, excuse me, my understanding was that there's 3 entities involved in this and they're paying for it as a pass-through to CRWA. Why is there a $614,000 charge to CRWA?
Well, that's the interest charge, but that's also passed through to the 3 special utility districts. So there's no
No
net
impact
charge.
financially to
All-
CRWA.
All of it flows through CRWA. So Joan, when she issues her monthly bills, it includes payments to Alliance Water that we're collecting for our current principal and interest payments that we have to make. But it's a simple pass through, frankly, to both of us. It's a pass through to CRWA, it's a pass through to ARWA, and then we pay it to the bondholders. So there's no amount that is simply picked up by the other members of CRWA.
Lastly, I'm not real excited about approving this tonight without having prior approval from all 3 entities.
This is how we've done it in the past with all our revenue bond issuances, is that it takes, your approval tonight does not allow us to go out and issue the ban. We still have to get the approval of all 3 of those entities. So if any one of them says no, then we don't issue the ban, period. So it's not that your approval is not superior to their approval. It takes all of their approvals. It takes approval by every entity in this organization in order for us to issue the debt. So any one of them could say no, and we're not able to issue it.
Items A, B, and C.
Yes, sir, I sure did. That was the intent.
3.15, 3.08, and then
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Right, I think we still have another question here. Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Bruce,
Sherman.
everyone, Nick Sherman, the new guy from Green Valley. You'll soon find out that I am the penny pincher at Green Valley and I constantly ask the financing questions. So that's where my background here is on these questions. Under Green Valley's packet that we have outside of this meeting, Green Valley's percentage of the 617 interest is $211,000. And my understanding, that's for 1 year of interest on this ban.
That's
loan.
correct.
My question is, what, similar to Mr. Foos's question, what if in 2024 we don't get the SWIFT funding? What if we don't close on it for whatever reason? Understanding we have backup. What type of interest rate are we seeing on an open market?
Well, it's hard to project what the interest rate will be next year, but our outside financial advisors have estimated a 5% interest rate is what we could expect on an open market type sale of this size. Whereas with the SWIFT, we're able to achieve much less than that. We are less than 4% typically.
If we simply didn't amend the contract to allow for ban loans and then go out for a ban loan forward, we would just wait until 20 and 24 to go for the SWIFT funding.
That's right. We would have to wait. It would mean delays in our projects, principally being the segment C pipeline, which is the leg to the north that includes water to county line, special utility district, as well as Kyle and Buda and other of our sponsors. And part of our risk and part of what our board has considered is that there'd be another year of interest and of increased costs that accumulate over the year. So I think our projects would only get more expensive through that time. It was one of the reasons we've looked at doing this short-term bridge financing so that we don't have those delays and don't have costs.
And then at your last visit to Green Valley, I failed to ask, but why weren't we able to get this applied for under the 2023?
So one of the challenges in my view of the SWIFT is that window only opens one time per year, and that's it closes by February 1st of each year. So you have to know well ahead of time that you need the financing. I just got a note on Friday from the Water Development Board that their SWIFT application process for 2014 is now open, and again, it closes by February 1st. So you have to have at least 10 months ahead of time notice or thought that you're going to need that funding. And we just didn't have that in this case. We were still bidding out a few projects, trying to figure out where the costs were going to come in, and we just didn't have that.
Because just to, last month when you came to Green Valley's meeting, that was the first notice that I had personally had that we need to, one, that we had the overage that I believe Green Valley's portion was 4.7. And I apologize if I'm speaking to Green Valley's, that's just where my background so far. But certainly then $211,000 of just extra 1 year interest,
arrangements, because it's fantastic that it's a pass through to CRWA and it's a pass through to ARWA. Someone is funding that, and
Absolutely.
it's. I don't know, did the other SUDs happen to know what your portion of the 1-year ban interest is?
We just finalized the interest rate December 5th. So we did not know precisely what that number was.
Okay, so just simply because we have our meeting coming up and I have a packet that shows it is the reason I know.
Well, and that's what we have it today. I mean, we
Friday.
just got that information in the last week. And so as soon as we had that information, we've sent it out to all of the entities that need to approve. I will say that we've had discussions at our board level going back to, I believe it's early part of the summer, on the lack that we're going to need some additional funding in order to complete the project. So that's been something that our board has discussed now for about the last 5 or 6 months, and options for how to do that and how to move forward with that.
And I guess my ask would be if you have foreseen need for additional funding. I've been sitting in the peanut gallery for months and I've never heard a word about it in this meeting. Surprise to Mr. Cooper when we discussed. It was a surprise, and it was, a surprise to the tune of almost $5 million total for us.
Right.
So, I don't know about the other member entities, but Green Valley is not flush with money. We $5 million surprises.
Who are the representatives for Canyon Regional on Alliance's board?
We currently have 4. We have Chris Betts, we have Humberto Ramos, we have Pat Allen, and we have Regina Frankie.
I don't mean to put anyone on the spot, but anybody be able to speak to, we just now were hearing for the bridges.
Say our board was aware. I go back and tell our board, and that's because we're the ones paying it. I would say that's where that information came and went.
We've been aware, actually, the board meetings are held in county lines, so we've been aware with regards to what's going on with the Alliance.
I think regardless, your point is well taken. We could have done a better job, clearly, of pushing the message out so that it penetrated further into the different board directors and so that they're aware. And so that's
At a high
something that
level,
we will.
At a
learn
high
from.
level, I think the SUDs need to pay their. I spoke with you and I agree, those overages, they're not terribly comfortable with it. February of 24, so
To November of 24 before we.
Oh,
can
I'm
get
sorry,
to
I thought you
the-
said-
The application closes in February 1st of 2024. But you can't actually close on the funds until November of 2024. It's a long process to go through that.
Bosworth.
President, I'd just like everyone to know that when they come to our just and enthusiastically received when he coming, but he was, and I should say he was reprimanded. Said they still had a consensus that we were. A matter to task. So he's I think Graham's been very open and honest about this from the last Canyon Regional meeting throughout his conversations with us on this. I don't anticipate it's going to happen again.
I would say you're kind of hearing what everybody needs to take back to the board at ARWA, but I think a little more transparency and a little more timely information probably would have made this a little less painful for those who are directly involved. And I do have to say that it's important that if you have a representative on that board and they're not coming back to a representative on the ARWA board and they're not coming back to your regular board and keeping them fully informed, you need to look internally as well as externally on that. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying everybody's got a fiduciary duty to make sure they're sharing all the good and bad news, whatever it is. And I think I've got nothing more to say on that.
And I don't know if this is exactly the correct moment to educate myself, but the members that you listed are appointed by this body?
Correct.
I do want to, just tacking on, I went back, last 3 months through project reports, that are given every month here at this meeting. Not once is there any indication of risk, financial concern, or anything else. So that's just piling on, but, that's got to stop. Yes. 4 months, including last week's, or last month's.
Looking for a motion, Mr. Chair.
I am ready for a motion at this point in
Move to
time.
approve CRWA 23-12-082.
Second.
At 8-2, correct?
82, yes, sir.
So everybody knows the item on is on page 99 of your packet. There's page numbers on the bottom left-hand corner. And so this first item is on page 99.
I have a motion on 11A, which is CRWA 23-12-082. Do I have a second to that motion? Thank you very much. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Hey,
Okay,
Made it.
we had 2 nays. That means it would pass 16-2 without any abstentions. Moving on to CRWA 23-12-083. We've
Mr.
already
Pres-
gotten the report.
President, I'd like to make a motion to approve CRWA 23.12 or -12-083.
I have a motion to approve that resolution. Do I have a second? A motion and a second on CRWA 23-12-083. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Hey,
We have 2 nays. 16 ayes.
And Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve CRWA 23-12-08.
I have a motion to approve CRWA 23-12-084. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Hey,
2 nays. 16 ayes. Thank you very much, Graham. Thank you very much. And I'm quite sure you'll keep us informed as this moves forward. Moving on, item D, CRWA 23-12-085, concerning the formulation of a policy for managing raw water supplies. Ms. Stubing.
Manager Justin.
Yes, sir. It'll be fine. We've done it in the past. We can do it again.
Okay.
Not okay with Humberto. He threw his name tag.
Was for the chair.
So,
Might have broke his name tag. That'll look.
You don't need no badges.
Bobby died over here.
Bobby Knight.
so Ms. Stubing asked, yes. So Ms. Stubing asked for this item to address what I was mentioning at the Board of Managers update, is that we feel that Canyon Regional needs to adopt a written standard operating procedure on how to manage the raw water, especially at the Hayes Caldwell plant, because it's such a unique situation with the GBRA lease take or pay, where if you don't take it, your full allotment on a daily basis, you don't bank it, it's gone. So there needs to be a written standard policy to manage that source and how those work. Because the plant's almost at capacity and we don't have the ability to share the demands between Wells Ranch and Dunlap, it's just one plant with one pot of water and that's it. And we need, the entities need to know that their water is there per the contract terms, at least at the peak flow that Canyon Regional is obligated to meet. So that's kind of why we asked for this.
Justin, I agree 100%.
Okay.
There's no doubt in my mind. I think that's an excellent idea. I think we ought to have staff put that together and let's provide the next report at the January meeting, see if we can start fleshing this out in that kind of time frame. Because I think you're absolutely correct that it is a unique situation. We got one pot of water with different timelines and all different types of strings attached to it. You can only use so much per day. If you don't use it, it's gone. It goes downriver. It is different than Dunlop and Wells Ranch mixed together. We have the ability kind of to pull from one when we're short on the other, and it makes it a little bit easier. You pretty much got one straw, one glass of water, and you can only drink it so fast. If you don't, you're in violation. And if you don't drink it at all, you wasted it.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add that the other challenge to that is you only have that limited amount from GBRA. So in the summer, when Hayes Caldwell cities are really pulling water, you're starting to draw down on the other well water supplies there that they have, the river rights. And I think what may be helpful is if Adam, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, John, if you're okay with it, Adam puts a presentation together to kind of discuss that just a little bit, because it is complex. It is a little bit of a headache. And just like everyone has said so far, the water, if you don't take that GBRA water, it goes down the river, you can't get it back. You got a little bit of catch up. You can do a little bit more GPM than you can take per day, but that catch up is very small, and that makes it a challenge, especially in the spring and winter if the demands are down. I think it would be important for everyone to hear kind of how that works.
And I'll be honest with you, somewhere in the future, while we're not going to try and mix it into what we're doing at Hayes Caldwell, it probably is not a bad thing ultimately for this organization to have the same type of situation set up as we deal with how water's moved through the rest of the system at Wells Ranch and at Lake Dunlap. It's just, that's not today's challenge. And we understand that right now. We're still doing fine with our water allocations and where it's got to go. But if we were faced with the same thing at this plant, you'd hear the rest of us arguing for the exact same thing, making sure water's where it needs to be, when it needs to be, and how it needs to be. And I agree with you. Any questions for Mr. Ivacek?
If I may, something else that's important is with regards to restrictions, when we've been told GBRA is going to restrict us if we don't receive water 15%. So that thought process needs to be in this whole policy. In the event there's restrictions that are mandated, not voluntary, mandated by GBRA, we need to figure that out, how this is going to be dispersed amongst entities before there's any problems.
Very similar to what happens when EEA started to basically throw
Exactly.
restrictions in. You're sitting there
Exactly.
going, I had water yesterday, but apparently today I do not. I know that you're very familiar with those restrictions, as was I. Any other comments? Sir, ma'am.
Just need to
Regina.
say- Thank you. In this, it does specify not just Hayes Caldwell, but all plants. And I think if we're going to adopt a policy or look at a policy, it probably needs to be company-wide, not just specific to each plant.
Right. What I would ask staff to do is let's concentrate on what it looks like for the Hayes Caldwell group. And then if it works for that, we'll see if it can be implemented on the other one. I just think that there is a very unique difference between Hayes Caldwell and being a single source, single pumping station, no real way to make up water versus when you have the Wells Ranch and Lake Dunlap, that sometimes we can pull more from one and pull less from the other and kind of balance those back and forth as we have a pipeline that allows us to intermix those two quite differently than what we have over in Hayes Caldwell. Any other comments on this?
How long do you think it would take to come up with an SOP for Hayes Caldwell?
I think we can give staff till the meeting in January. It's going to come up pretty darn fast because we got the holidays and it's on January 8th. So it's going to happen quick. We might get an initial report then and maybe target having it in place by February. Anybody?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not staff.
I'm getting a thumbs up over there.
I-
And then, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve CRWA 23-12-085, specifically for the Hayes Caldwell project with a timeline of our meeting in February.
I have a motion on 23-12-085, setting a timeline that we'd like to have a policy in place for the February meeting. Do I have a second to that? I have a second from Doris Stubing. Any other discussion on this?
Can I ask for clarification on the motion? Does that mean no to Lake Dunlap and Wells Ranch
I
or
thought
just
we were just
prioritizing Hayes Caldwell?
Prioritizing, yes.
Would you mind amending it to prioritizing
I'm going
Hayes?
to amend the motion to prioritizing
Because I want to offer.
Hayes Caldwell. There you
Thank
go.
you. Ms. Stubing, will you second that again? Any other discussion? Thank you. That's a good point. Hearing none, I'll take, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? There we go.
Thank you.
18. Item E, CRWA 23-12-086, concerning the formulation of a policy for annual reporting on water use. Again, this is by Doris Dubing, and I assume you're going to ask Mr. Ivacek to speak on your behalf?
This was just to adopt a policy for Canyon Regional to report, do a comprehensive annual report around the January, February timeframe to show where raw water was allocated to which member entities and where it went, and the loss that the plant, because I keep speaking to the Hayes Caldwell because that's all I really know. Because the tolerances are so tight there, I'm just curious of what the plant's losing, just daily operations. It might help identify that we may need, we all know we need more raw water over there, but just tighten that ship up over there and have that done. And we get these reports monthly. But I think a little more comprehensive one that present.
Your comprehensive report
Correct.
on how the operations went, how much water was used by who, and what was left on the
That's
table?
it. That's it.
I don't see that as a challenge at all. Adam? Okay. Anybody have any other comments in reference to this one? I think both of these are great ideas. I don't have a challenge with either one.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve CRWA 23-12-086.
I have a motion and a second in reference to CRWA 23-12-086. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, we have an 18-0 vote. Thank you very much. Item F. A request for a 5-minute recess. Do I hear anyone opposed to a 5-minute recess? Hearing none, we're on recess at 6:52 and we will reconvene at 6:58. You're very welcome.
I see.
So that's why public issues needs to be.
Okay. So we're having an issue, open, whatever, but my thing is, it's not just very postal, it's just a big thing.
I finally bailed out.
By the way,
Sure didn't turn out very
put in writing.
hard.
All the time on this table.
But I was layered up enough.
I got your.
Instead of getting more rain in about September, I think, like last week.
Even a day, maybe an inch and a half, it rained all night, but the ground's so thirsty, it doesn't make a difference, really.
I had a bunch of oats for my kids. It looks really good, but you can start seeing it starting to suffer.
Yeah. Bill was telling me the other day, he was at one of the feedlots in the Panhandle, and they're worrying about running out of water up there.
I do some work up there at, it's about miles west of Clayton. Gone in and put these energy saving sprinklers in some. Running out.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we got to make it for everyone.
I just,
And when, when you go up there and you quit fighting. All the irrigations.
Yeah, all the pivots that are out there, yeah. They've been running a lot of cattle up to Nebraska. They're running a lot of
When he comes back in, how much time to get it?
What do we do?
We're all thinking about it. So is David. Agreed.
Yeah, they brought that up, but, right.
Slowing anything down. No, it's a good. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. Sounds like a hockey game. As a kid, grew up, I used to go to Rangers game all the time. 1 minute, 1 minute. And the organ player would start playing away. Eddie Layton was the organ player. They played the organ, played live at Madison
Hey,
Square Garden for years.
Don't forget your name.
At Madison Square Garden at the hockey game, there was a live organ player. He was playing. It wasn't fans here that. Yeah, they had a big electronic organ, but he sat up right above the goal. We just sat about 6 rows in front of him behind the opposing goal. Right above the glass line, which glass saviors here. Here's the duck. What was coming, you better do it.
As always.
Thanks, Gary.
I promise I don't have COVID either.
Clock's running, I wanna go home.
Yeah, the game's about to start.
Oh, I know.
Huh?
I fight
Game's
allergies.
about to start.
Which one?
I've almost done the
Oh.
allergy testing to start doing the shot.
Hey, I'm from Miami, okay?
Until February. Drives me crazy.
And it'll be set on the recording. All right, we're back in session at 6:58 as promised. We are now on item F. CRWA 2311-078 concerning approval of an annual overages charge procedure. This is Doris Stubing. Ms. Stubing, I'm going to pass it over to you. Now, let me state that before we do that, I want to read the note on the bottom. The action on this item was previously postponed to the January 2024 Board of Trustees meeting. And at this point in time, we really should not be taking action on it because essentially the board has already taken action, move it to that meeting. If we want to have a brief discussion, I think that would be appropriate.
Engage New Gen study, and they have produced their results. And I think we need to move forward with what they have come forward with. I'm going to ask from Martindale Water to comment on this.
Yeah.
Thank you. I support the motion that Ms. Stubing has made for this issue. We've discussed this over a period of almost a year, and we paid in good faith New Gen to come up with a policy that the majority of the members have agreed to and trust this methodology. And I think it mirrors the analysis that was conducted by internal staff of Canyon Regional in the past. And we have a mirror image of the same process, and the numbers are pretty much the same. And so I think we need to move on and resolve this issue and put it behind us and go on and have an established procedure for this when it occurs in the future.
Have any comments on this?
I'd like to make a couple of comments. With regards to what Mr. Fonbo has stated, he is correct. Back in 2015, I'm sorry, 12/15 of 22, we had a meeting and Chris Eckert basically gave us the same numbers we're dealing with a year from now. January 18th, we had our first meeting with regards to the new year, with regards to the Hayes Caldwell Water Use Accounting. May 18th, Canyon Regional Office, we had a Hayes Caldwell amended restated contract meeting on with regards to the contract. Meeting was held with San Marcos. All participants were involved. We had general managers, county line, Crystal Clear attended with 2 attorneys. June 12th, we had a Board of Trustees meeting where there was a motion by Mr. Fonville and Martindale with regards to engaging a mediator. At that meeting, it went to executive session. After executive session, Mr. Bosworth, representing Crystal Clear, stated that he wanted to go through the process of meeting and working this process out. June 28th, we had our first meeting of this group again of entities. We met in the Board of Trustees meeting. The chair and the president and the vice president were there. The thought process and the result of that meeting was Mr. Bosworth was going to visit with the entities and to determine what the issues were and if was there any opportunity for leasing water. On July 17, Mr. Bosworth met with Martindale. July 25th, Mr. Bosworth met with Maxwell. July 27th, Mr. Bosworth met with County Line. July 30th, Mr. Bosworth, met with City of San Marcos. August 3rd, we had a subsequent meeting of this group. Attendance were all general managers, attorneys. Mr. Bosworth was going to visit again and see if there was any willingness to lease water to the entities. I'm concerned because I believe I was at one of these meetings and I asked Mr. Bosworth to please provide the synopsises of these reports, which I have before me, that dictate what he learned from all these entities. And nothing was provided to this group, which this action was tabled by this group. So that's concerning to me. August 17th, meeting resulting from action of the August 3rd meeting, San Marcos admin training. Mr. Tyler out of San Marcos took it upon himself to try to meet with the group to see operationally if we can work something out. We met, there was no resolution. We all understood that we all needed our water. We left with that meeting. September 11th, we had a third meeting of this group. Again, keep in mind, Mr. Bosworth asked for us to meet. We've been meeting. In attendance were all general managers, attorneys, board members, entities, president, vice president of CRWA staff, attorneys. Outcome was to move forward with Doris Steuben's recommendation for the CRWA Board of Trustees meeting, evening meeting, if you will, with a resolution. September 11th, CRWA Board of Trustees meeting. We had a motion, a resolution to do a new rate study by Chris Eckert. Crystal Clear did not approve the motion. Everybody else within this board approved that motion. September 25th, I had a lunch meeting with Crystal Clear with regards to Regina and Chris Betts and Jennifer Dickerman. Crystal Clear was requesting 250 acre feet be leased to them for a 2-year period. I adamantly stated I could not do that for the simple reason County Line needs its water for capacity and TCQ requirements. I encouraged her to work with the group. I encouraged her to pay the group some amount of money for this water. It only made sense if she's coming to me asking for 250 acre feet of water, she'd be willing to pay something at the end of this process. October 11th, CRWA Board of Trustees meeting. There was that resolution which was to ratify concerning ratification of new gen strategies. Resolution was adopted. We added another 12,500 to new gen's contract. November 11th, CRWA Board of Managers, New Gen presented its results. All were present, even a representative from County Line. Representative from Crystal Clear. November 13th, concerning approval and annual overage at the Board of Trustees meeting. I spoke with Regina Pryor. She stated that she was not present at the November 8th Board of Managers meeting. I felt that it was important for all to be involved in the process, and I offered her the opportunity to have that presentation, which she was asking for. And so I second that motion, which was brought on by Mr. Bosworth. On November 29th, we had a meeting of all the entities. We went ahead and felt that the meeting was imperative. There was some discussion with regards to crystal clear wanting Mr. Chris Eckert present. Thought that a virtual meeting wasn't as good as a meeting being present. We all felt that at the end, excluding crystal clear, that there should be some method. And we've worked for a whole year with all these meetings and we have nothing. So it's unfortunate that that motion was seconded by me, and I apologize to all involved that I did not hear that it was going to be pushed back to January. But I just wanted to recap that we've been working on this for a whole year, beginning on 12/15 of 22, and we're now here in December, and it's the same numbers, it's the same method. All we're asking for is, again, what's due to the entities. We've been working on for a year. There was overages occurring. There's overages also occurring in Lake Dunlap. This problem that's happening in Hayes Caldwell is going to happen in Lake Dunlap. It's going to happen. And so going back to what I always state with regards to Game of Thrones, winter is coming. That is going to happen over here. And we need to deal with it. And I believe we've met with intention, and you've been part of those meetings, with intention of trying to bring a resolution to this. And there is no resolution yet. And it's unfortunate because the majority of that water that's being used, county lines water. County line, we cannot get our water because there's no pipe. There's other issues, but again, I would ask, and I know we're under Robert's Rules of Order, I would ask that there be some consideration today to get this method approved, which has been vetted for a whole year. It's not a surprise to Crystal Clear. You know, they've known about it for 2 years. It's unfortunate that this has brought strain to the relationships we have. All we're asking for is compensation. But that's all I'm going to state about that. And again, I apologize for seconding the motion publicly because I shouldn't have done that. I should have listened. But I wanted to give the opportunity to Crystal Clear to hear the presentation.
Anybody else have any comments they'd like to add to this?
I do. I would actually like to hear from CRWA's legal counsel as to, the requested action of this board. Are we allowed to do this under the contract terms?
Should we have that discussion in open
Is that
session?
an executive session item?
It should be an executive session item. I want to make sure I'm clear that I understand the question. Are you asking about whether or not we have the legal ability to proceed with this item tonight? Because the answer on that is that we do not.
That was my question, is violate the contract but if we take action on this.
So if we
No,
can't,
it doesn't violate the contract. What happened at the last meeting is there was a motion, what was called a motion to table. It was in reality a motion to postpone to a date certain. That motion specifically said, motion to postpone consideration until January. That motion was seconded. The second was withdrawn so that we could have discussion. Then the second was replaced, and then there was a vote that carried to table the item until January. So we cannot consider this item. We can't take action on this item tonight.
Cannot act on it tonight.
We can't act on it tonight. I don't disagree with the word that has been said about the urgency of this. I think that there's been an accurate rendition, at least as to the chronology of how long we've been dealing with the issue. I've been in a lot of those meetings. This is a very important issue, but it's not so important that we violate the law by taking action on it tonight when we cannot.
can we plan on an executive session at the January meeting? If we're going to have to delay action until January, can we have an executive session to be briefed by Mr. Wilson as a board?
Yes.
So it's appropriate to leave this item on the agenda for January and to take action at that time. We can add an executive session to the agenda, providing for a briefing before you take that action, if that's the request.
Yes, sir, please.
That can be structured that way. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Is it pertinent to, or is it allowable to make a motion to postpone items for more than the next? Can you skip board meetings or trustee meetings?
Yes, there's not in Robert's rules, there's not a limitation on how long you can postpone. In fact, there's a specific mechanism to postpone indefinitely. And honestly, I can't recall whether the request to postpone to January was fortuitous because we normally don't have a meeting in December, or whether it was strategic, but either way, I've listened to the recording 3 times, and clearly the motion is a request to postpone consideration until January. That was seconded and that was voted on.
Thank you.
My recollection is that was done just in case this.
Anyone else have any comments in relation to this?
I will hold my comments to the January executive session.
Noted, we will have this on the next agenda as was voted on in November. Noted, we will have this set up so we can go into an executive session specifically on this item in advance of taking action on this item, so the Board of Trustees can receive a briefing from council. Multiple board members request that, so there's no reason to go any further than that's what we'll do. Okay, I see you're already penning that up, so I think we're good, right? Any other questions, comments on this one? I think we're gonna have a very vigorous discussion on this in January. Very vigorous. Hearing no other comments, we're gonna move to item 12, executive session, Board of Trustees. It's over so I can read it better. Board of Trustees will meet in closed session, to discuss following items pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including where appropriate, sections 551, 071, 072, 074, 076, 086, 089, and 418.183, subset F of the Texas Government Code. A, in accordance with section 551, 074, Texas Government Code, the board will meet in closed session to deliberate the employment evaluation duties of general manager of the authority, requested by Humberto Ramos. B, in accordance with section 551, 074A, Texas Government Code, the board will meet in closed session to deliberate the appointment, employment, and duties of a potential successor to the position of general manager of the authority, and the formulation of a succession plan for such position. I'm going to move us into executive session. I'm going to take a break here at this point in time. I've been asked to sign the documents for ARWA real quickly, so I'm going to sign those documents and I'm going to come back and we'll start the executive session. So we're on a break for about 5 minutes. It is 7:13 PM. We are moving out of open session, not into closed session.
Yes, sir, I can.
All right, 8:29 PM. It is item 13. We're returning to open session. The board may consider, deliberate, and take action on items discussed in executive session, including discussing potential adoption of the following resolution. A, consider, discuss, and possibly take action, accepting the general manager's early retirement effective January 12th, 2024. I'll take a motion.
Second.
I have a motion to second in reference to item 13. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that resolution passes, or that action item passes, excuse me, not a resolution, but that action item. Item 14, future board member agenda items. Anybody have anything for the next board? You don't have to have it this evening. For our new board member, it takes 2 board members to put something on the agenda. You can always just ask Mr. Cooper if he'd agree to put something on the agenda. You can just send it over to staff.
Pick one now.
You adopt that. Darn. Never mind, it takes just one.
That 078 is gonna be on there.
Yes. Yes, sir. We'll be bringing back the one that was 078 that's already on here. We'll bring that back. James? That affects. I gotta be honest with you, if it does, it's gonna shift dramatically because essentially the rest of that week, I've already got meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday, which means we'd almost be jumping it a whole nother week. I'm not sure we want to do that. And James, I appreciate your point. I appreciate the question. Anybody else on item 14 have any future agenda items? As I was corrected by our illustrious chairman of the policy committee, it only takes one. You always can call in to the general manager's office and ask for an item to be placed on the agenda. As part of the executive committee agenda review, we go over those. If there's any questions or concerns, we would contact you and reference what you wanted on there in case we didn't understand it clearly or ask for direction. We've done that in the past where we wanted clarification on what someone was asking for to be on the agenda. We've done that in the past. But other than that, hearing none, I will happily move on to item 15. Motion's adjourned. 8:31.